night he agreed to the blind date, the city lights below his penthouse looked like a warning instead of a promise. Because for the first time in years, a man who owned everything realized he had nothing that could keep him warm when the world went quiet. Adrian Cole had built an empire before turning 40, signed deals that changed industries, and mastered the art of control so completely that even his own heartbeat felt scheduled. Yet one unexpected decision was about to crack the carefully polished armor he wore every single day. Before the story truly begins, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet power of love to change broken lives, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that touch the heart. Adrian Cole was known across Manhattan as a ruthless visionary, a self-made millionaire CEO whose name carried weight in boardrooms and fear in negotiations. His mornings began before sunrise, his days were carved into 15-minute blocks, and his nights were spent alone, staring at glass walls that reflected success but never comfort. People admired him from a distance, envied him in silence, and assumed his life was perfect, but none of them saw the cost of always winning. Years earlier, love had demanded vulnerability from him at a time when failure nearly destroyed his company. And when that love walked away, Adrian decided emotions were liabilities he could no longer afford. Across the same city, several subway stops away from luxury, Maya Lewis folded her worn coat tighter as she hurried toward the towering office building where she worked as an executive secretary. Her life was simple, almost invisible, shaped by responsibility rather than ambition. She supported her younger brother through college, paid rent on a modest apartment, and carried dreams she rarely spoke aloud because reality had taught her not to expect miracles. She was known in the office for her efficiency, her quiet kindness, and her ability to absorb pressure without complaint. No one noticed how tired her eyes looked by Friday evening, or how carefully she hid her disappointment behind polite smiles. Adrian barely noticed secretaries, not because he disrespected them, but because his world had narrowed into numbers, strategies, and survival. Maya, on the other hand, noticed everything. She noticed how his shoulders stiffened during tense calls, how he stayed late long after everyone else left, and how his eyes softened for a split second when he thought no one was watching. She respected him, feared him a little, and never imagined their lives would intersect beyond professionally typed emails and neatly organized schedules. The blind date happened because two people who cared too much interfered. Adrian's sister believed her brother was turning into a machine, while Maya's best friend believed she was disappearing into self-sacrifice. Both women insisted that one evening could not hurt, and both kept important details secret. Adrian was told he would meet a woman completely outside his world, someone who did not care about wealth or power. Maya was told she would meet a man who worked in finance, nothing more, nothing less. Neither expected anything meaningful, which made what followed all the more dangerous. The restaurant was modest, warm, and far from the places Adrian usually entertained investors. For once, he arrived without an assistant, without a driver waiting outside, and without a phone glued to his hand. Maya arrived nervous, wearing a dress she had saved for special occasions, her hands trembling slightly as she reminded herself that this was just one dinner, not a life-altering event. When they saw each other, recognition flickered beneath confusion, but both chose politeness over panic, deciding silently that awkwardness was better than walking away. The evening unfolded with unexpected ease. Without labels or expectations, Adrian found himself listening instead of leading, discovering what it felt like to be curious rather than calculating. Maya felt seen in a way that startled her, as if someone had paused long enough to notice the weight she carried. They talked about childhoods shaped by loss, about mistakes that taught hard lessons, and about the quiet fear of ending up alone, despite being surrounded by people. Neither realized how deeply the words settled, how carefully the cracks in their armor aligned. Days later, reality returned with brutal force. Adrian walked into his office to find Maya at her desk, professional and composed, and the shock left him breathless. Guilt, confusion, and fear collided as he realized the imbalance of power between them. Maya felt it too, the sudden distance, the unspoken rules crashing down around her. She wondered if the warmth of that evening had been an illusion, something she had imagined because hope had briefly outweighed caution. Adrian struggled in silence. He questioned his intentions, his ethics, and his ability to protect someone from the fallout of his world. He began pulling away, burying himself in work, convincing himself that distance was kindness. Maya interpreted his withdrawal as rejection, a familiar ache that reminded her why she never let herself want too much. She focused harder on her job, pushing her emotions aside, unaware that her absence from his personal orbit was costing Adrian more than any failed deal ever had. The breaking point came when a corporate crisis threatened the company's future, and Adrian found himself surrounded by people offering solutions, but no understanding. Late one night, exhausted and overwhelmed, he noticed Maya still working, quietly fixing problems without recognition. Watching her persistence, her integrity, and her quiet strength forced him to confront the truth he had been avoiding. Success meant nothing if it demanded he deny his humanity. Control meant nothing if it cost him connection. Change did not come easily. Adrian took steps that shocked his inner circle, delegating power, creating boundaries, and making decisions that prioritized people over profit. He addressed the situation with transparency, ensuring that no professional lines were crossed, even if it meant risking his reputation. Maya, seeing his effort, began to trust that not all powerful men used their power to take. Slowly, cautiously, something fragile and real began to grow, rooted not in fantasy, but in mutual respect. Their journey was not free of whispers, judgment, or setbacks. There were moments when fear nearly won, when walking away seemed easier than standing firm. But each challenge revealed a deeper truth about love, that it is not found in perfection, but in choice. Adrian learned that strength could be gentle, that leadership could include humility. Maya learned that she was worthy of being chosen, not because she was convenient, but because she was extraordinary in ways that had nothing to do with status. As the seasons changed, so did they. The city that once felt cold and indifferent began to feel alive with possibility. Adrian no longer measured his life solely by growth charts and quarterly reports. Maya no longer measured her worth by how much she could endure. Together, they redefined success as something shared, something that expanded rather than consumed. If this story is touching your heart so far, take a moment to pause and comment below what kindness and second chances mean to you, because your words might inspire someone else who is silently struggling. Near the end of the year, standing at a charity event neither had planned but both believed in, Adrian looked out at the crowd and realized the greatest investment he had ever made was not in technology or real estate, but in becoming the kind of man who could love without fear. Maya stood beside him, not as a secretary, not as a secret, but as a partner who had walked through uncertainty and chosen courage anyway. Before this story ends, if it moved you, if it reminded you that love can rise from the most unexpected places, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can reach hearts that are still healing. Because sometimes, the miracle is not that a millionaire CEO falls in love with a secretary on a blind date, but that two wounded people find the bravery to believe that they deserve happiness, even when the world tells them they should not.